1988 was an absolute game changer for music, a goldmine, an era of massive hits, legendary albums, and songs that still give us chills today. Looking back, it's crazy how many classics came out in just that year. From soaring rock anthems to unforgettable pop gems, new wave, rock, hard rock, R&B, these tracks captured everything. Passion, joy, romance, seduction, escapism, and pure musical magic, including a song with so many guitar parts it was impossible to duplicate live. Also a song that was a guitar exercise that sounded like something the circus would play. That's what the guitarist said. The lead singer made this guitar player turn it into a song against his will, and it became massive. He's also the rookie who subbed in for a legend at the last second when he had to cancel an appearance at a benefit show that had an audience of 600 million people. She had to fill in right then and there. She played a song so powerful it made her a star in 4 minutes, and she sold 2 million records the week after. We count down the 10 best songs of 1988 coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember the antics of one Super Grover back in the day, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the white button, click the bell. I know you'll find something to dig on this channel. Make sure also to sign up at professorofrock.com. We have a live stream coming up this week with a special guest talking about 1985. The special guest will give his picks. I'm going to give mine. It's the best 85. You can't miss it. Oh, man. Today, we are going to cover the top 10 songs of 1988. Again, these countdowns get harder to do every single time. They had to be a top 40 hit or peak in the top 40 in 1988 to be able to be considered for the list. And there's so many great songs, so many great albums that came out, so let's get right into it. Coming in at number 10, I've got a band whose lead singer was called the second coming of Jim Morrison. I've got Inxs with Need You Tonight. I need you tonight. You know, for the Kick album, Inxs decided to shake things up. Michael Hutchence and Andrew Ferris took on all the songwriting themselves. So slide over here and give me a moment. Need You Tonight actually came together in a crazy way. Andrew Ferris was in a rush to catch a flight, but before heading out, inspiration just struck. He whipped up a rhythm track on a Roland 707 drum machine right then and there. The problem is his cab had already arrived. He needed to go to the airport. So instead of ditching the idea, he told the driver to hang tight while he quickly laid down a demo on cassette. Really cut it close. In fact, here's what he told me about that.
So he stops and just throws me out of the cab. Anyway, I got another cab. I'll go back down the hill and over to this estate building. And I get there, and Mike was sitting there, and there's a very talented engineer in there as well. And he had a Fairlight keyboard, which is a very cool keyboard. Yeah, and I was like, wow, because I'd never even used one before. And I played the demo I had of Need You Tonight, which is basically what the recording is kind of like. There's something about you, girl. And Michael goes, that's great. And he grabs it and he goes, give me 5 minutes. And he wrote the lyrics straight out. I know. But weird. That's weird, right?
Jeez.
Like, real, I saw him write it out, right? I'm like, wow, you know. And then he walks in the vocal booth and just sings it. Just like that. That's the first vocal that he did.
Need You Tonight defied record label wisdom and ran to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was also a #3 smash in Australia and New Zealand, and it went to #2 in the UK and Canada. I've got to let you know. Coming in at #9 on our countdown of the top 10 songs in 1988, we've got the mighty Van Halen with a power ballad, When It's Love. The second single released from OU812 was Sammy Hagar as the lead vocalist and lyricist. This is truly a great song. I don't think it gets the love it deserves. This is what Sammy told me about writing it with Eddie Van Halen.
I was coming down to start writing for that album. I said, what do you guys got, man? What have you been working on? They went in, they got sounds, you know, so I come in later. And because I lived in San Francisco, still do, Bay Area. So He puts a cassette in and plays down, down, down. And I just go, woo, boing, man,
yeah.
to wang, ka-lang. By the time we got to the studio, I already had, my chorus melodies, and even the verse, everybody's looking for something.
When It's Love crept to number 23 in Australia, went to number 28 in the UK, and of course, much greater heights here in America. It landed at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. Next up is the soulful elegance of one of the most underappreciated singers of the 80s. Talking about Anita Baker and the title track from her second album, Giving You the Best That I Got, at number 8.
That I made a vow, I'm giving you the best that I've got.
Giving You the Best That I Got is all about unconditional love and devotion, but that wasn't the song's original intent. According to co-writer Randy Holland, it actually started as a personal anthem about his struggles. I guess after moving from Bartsville, Oklahoma to Los Angeles to chase a music career, he found himself hitting a lot of roadblocks. He was quite literally giving it the best that he had, but things were not clicking for him. Later, he shifted the song's focus to his wife, Jennifer, turning it into a tribute to their bond. Holland, however, didn't have the industry connections to get the song recorded.
Baby, yes, I tell you now.
Enter his friend Skip Scarborough, a seasoned R&B songwriter behind hits like Love Ballad for LTD and Can't Hide Love for Earth, Wind & Fire. Holland actually asked Scarborough to tweak the song if needed and, pitch it to the right people so they could get it recorded. Scarborough made some structural changes, produced a demo, and he sent it to Elektra Records. He hoped that Howard Hewitt, the former lead singer of Shalimar, would record this song. But there was another Elektra artist with major influence at that time, Anita Baker, fresh off the massive success of her 1986 album Rapture. Anita heard the song and immediately she connected with it. Since she was engaged, the lyrics resonated deeply with her, but she wanted to make a couple of adjustments. She actually added more detail at the beginning. She sped up the tempo and gave it a little more energy.
When I think my peace of mind is out of reach.
Her contributions earned her a co-writing credit alongside Holland and Scarborough, and the result was an iconic track that was Anita's biggest hit with that incredible line, I bet everything on my wedding ring.
I bet everything on my wedding ring.
It also might be the most unlikely song to motivate a world-class athlete to single-handedly beat a team in the NBA playoffs.
There's a song that plays, and you said that was going to be your theme. What's that song that you listen to?
Anita Baker, Give It Your Best. Just go out and give it to y'all. And that's what I did.
Remember when I heard that, I thought that was so cool that Michael Jordan was into that. Anita Baker is one of the most incredible voices of the 80s. They actually took home the Grammy for Best Rhythm and Blues Song, all of them for writing Giving the Best That I Got, while Anita won Best R&B Vocal Performance Female for both the song and the album.
Somebody understand me.
The success didn't stop there. The album also scooped up 3 Soul Train Music Awards and even topped the Billboard album chart from December 24th, 1988, all the way to January 20th, 1989. Anita Baker, incredible.
Giving it to you, baby.
Continuing with our countdown to the top of 88. We're at number 7, and we're talking about the last big hit for Fleetwood Mac. It's Everywhere with an inspired lead vocal by the late Christine McVie. Fleetwood Mac kicked off recording Tango in the Night in late 1985 thanks to Christine McVie. She brought in Lindsey Buckingham, Mick Fleetwood, and John McVie to play on her cover of Can't Help Falling in Love for the 1986 film A Fine Mess. That session sparked the start of a new album. Stevie Nicks joined in later and reunited the band for the first time since they finished their Mirage album, their tour in 1982. And of course, one of the highlights from Tango in the Night is of this song, Everywhere, which has had a huge resurgence lately. Man, I love that shimmering sound on the intro of Everywhere. You know exactly what song it is when it comes on. That was Lindsey Buckingham's magic at work as co-producer of Tango in the Night alongside Richard Dashut. Lindsey, of course, a master at pulling unique sounds from his guitar, By this point, he also had a Fairlight synthesizer, which let him experiment with sampling. Lindsay even mixed in, toy pianos and zithers to create that dreamy layered feel to Open Everywhere. Really cool. Everywhere, like I said, has had a resurgence in pop culture. It was used for a memorable sing-along moment in a TV spot for Chevrolet that put it back into the charts.
Equinox to Silverado. Chevy EVs are for everyone, everywhere.
But back in 1988, the song rose to #1 in Belgium and Canada, along with topping the adult contemporary chart here in the US. Single peaked at #4 in the UK, the Netherlands, and Panama. Here in the Hot 100, it went to number 14. Coming in at number 6 on our countdown of the best of 88, it's an artist that was discovered busking on the streets and playing in coffee houses. It's the painfully shy, but oh so interesting Tracy Chapman with her timeless hit Fast Car.
You get a fast car. I want a ticket to anywhere.
Tracy Chapman first began to sing on the streets when she had a craving for some Chinese food. She didn't have any money, so she grabbed her guitar, put a cup in front of her, and literally sang for her supper. Tracy recorded a demo tape of songs for her first album at the campus radio station at Tufts University, and one of her classmates, a guy named Brian Koppelman, passed that demo tape to his father, Charles Koppelman, who worked at SBK Publishing. Really impressed, Charles signed her to a management deal and helped secure her a record contract with Elektra Records. A lot of stuff going on with Elektra today. Elektra had the foresight, or really the ears, to sign Tracy Chapman, but they originally were convinced that Talking About a Revolution should be the debut single instead of Fast Car.
Talking about a revolution sounds.
Even though she was really proud of Talking About a Revolution, Tracy Chapman believed that Fast Car represented the world that she lived in, and that the record-buying audience would relate more to what that song was about. So against their initial gut instincts, Fast Car is the song that they ended up releasing first.
Had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
But not without a miraculous moment that changed everything for Tracy Chapman. Because of the buzz about Tracy, she was invited to perform at Nelson Mandela's birthday party. The tribute was to be an epic concert and demonstration honoring Mandela. It was held at London's Wembley Stadium, and it was broadcast to a worldwide TV audience of over 600 million viewers. So Tracy was added to the schedule of acts, and included massive bands and artists like Bee Gees and Sting, Dire Straits, George Michael, Whitney Houston, many more. Tracy actually played a 3-song set early on. It included the songs Why, Behind the Wall, and Talking About a Revolution. She thought her day was done. That's when a twist of fate changed her whole career.
Talking about a revolution. Oh, no.
So get this, genius Stevie Wonder was supposed to come out and play a surprise set. Nobody knew he was playing as a special guest. And his production rig was all plugged in, ready to go. He was coming on stage, and then he found out that the hard disk of his synclavier, which had all 25 minutes of his pre-recorded material synchronized for his act, was missing. It was gone. And he freaked out. He said, I can't play. He turned around. I guess he was really upset. He was crying. And he left the stadium with his band. What were the producers going to do? They had an unexpected time slot to fill with 72,000 people at Wembley Stadium and a massive international TV audience anxiously waiting. The producers were forced to think of something really quick. They actually asked Tracy Chapman, the rookie, if she'd sing 2 more numbers to fill up the time. Tracy agreed. She stepped on stage and she played a spellbinding version of Fast Car. It was a showstopper.
I got a plan to get us out of here, been working at the convenience store.
Now, of course, this was before social media. There was no X, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram. Otherwise, Tracy Chapman would have been trending on all of them. The public's fascination with Fast Car and Tracy Chapman, it shifted into overdrive. They'd never heard anything quite like it.
Had a feeling that I belong.
Before a performance of the Nelson Mandela tribute concert, Tracy's debut album had sold like 200,000 copies. But in the week and a half after that performance and it got around, sold over 2 million copies.
I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
This breathtaking really heart-wrenching song had taken the album past the double platinum mark, and it kept going. I mean, this song resonated with people all over the world, and it really reflected the world that Tracy Chapman grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, in a working-class community raised by a single mom surrounded by people struggling, but holding on to hope that life would improve.
No plans, I ain't going nowhere. Just take your fast car and keep on driving.
That's what makes it such an incredible song. Of course, a new generation discovered the emotive genius of Fast Car when Luke Combs covered it with huge success in 2023. But man, everybody should go back to the minimalist artistic magic created by Tracy Chapman. Incredible song. The beautiful sincerity battled against more traditional radio-crafted singles, but it still climbed to #1 in Belgium, Canada, Ireland, Portugal, and Holland. Here in the United States, it peaked at #6 on the Billboard Hot 100. And then at the 31st Annual Grammy Awards in 1989, Fast Car racked up Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Female Pop Vocal Performance, which Tracy actually won for.
Ain't going nowhere. Just take your fast car and keep on driving.
Coming in at #5 halfway through the countdown of our top songs of 88, this really needs no setup. As soon as you hear the first 2 chords of the intro, you know what it is. Slash came up with the iconic riff of Sweet Child of Mine while just, messing around on this guitar. It was actually just a training exercise. At first, he thought it sounded kind of silly. He didn't want to use it. He thought it sounded like a circus melody, his words. But then Axl heard it, and he was all in it. He pushed Slash to keep playing it. Then Izzy Stradlin threw in some chords. Duff McKagan put a bass line together on it. Just like that, the song emerged. It was incredible. It was sensational. According to Duff's 2012 autobiography, Slash actually thought it was the worst Guns N' Roses song, if you can believe that. When he talked to Rolling Stone, Slash seemed very proud of the song and where the riff came from, explaining that his creation was spawned by many of his teenage influences, everything from Jeff Beck, Cream, and Zeppelin, to some surprises like the solo in Man for Man's Blinded by the Light, and Jerry Rafferty's Baker Street had a huge influence. Well, GNR frontman Axl Rose was sitting with his thoughts, crafting a poem when the words started to take shape into something much bigger. This was more than just a poem. It was the heart of a song. The song he would later admit was about his girlfriend Erin Everly, the daughter of Don Everly from the legendary Everly Brothers. They were dating. Their love story was anything but simple. After dating for 4 years, they found themselves in Las Vegas on April 28, 1990, rushing into a quickie wedding. But this fairy tale was far from perfect. Actually, just 9 months later, the marriage ended in an annulment, leaving behind the wreckage of a toxic relationship. Despite the love they shared, it was clear what they had wasn't really built to last. Sweet Child of Mine was the 3rd single release from the blockbuster Appetite for Destruction album. It was the one that pushed it all the way up. Just like that historic record, the song was a massive success. It rose to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also scored big in Canada, going to #7, to #6 in the UK, #5 in the Netherlands, and #4 in Ireland. In fact, at the time, Guns N' Roses were actually opening for a band they idolized, Aerosmith. But by the time Sweet Child of Mine hit #1, they were not only more popular than their heroes, they also stole the cover of Rolling Stone from them, right up from under their noses. Back to the countdown of the top 10 songs of 88. It's one of the most seductive, hypnotic tracks of the decade. I got George Michael's Father Figure at #4. You're the desert, I'll be the sea. If you ever hungered, hunger for me. Whatever you ask for, that's what I'll be. Man, George revealed that the original idea for that and for Father Figure was completely different from how it turned out. It was actually meant to be a mid-tempo dance track at first, But as George experimented with the mix, he was searching for something that would bring out a hidden dance melody. When he accidentally cut out the snare on the soundboard, it completely changed the vibe of this track. Suddenly took on a really dreamy, ethereal feel. This shift happened halfway through the process since George was writing the song as he went along in the studio. He said, and I quote, "Hey, this works way better. So, I just adjusted the rest of the track to fit that spacey sound." In George's eyes, it became the most original sounding song on the Faith album. When I heard that George intended Father Figure to be, a dance number, I was even more astounded by the soulful power of the vocal on the finished version of the song. It's one of his best vocals, and that's saying something. Father Figure feels like a soft, drifting fantasy, a moment suspended between two worlds, really. In many ways, it's a soul song at its core, drawing from gospel traditions as George taps into that rich soul influence. The chorus of Father Figure stands out with backup vocals that surge in, reminiscent of the powerful impact of a gospel choir, especially given the quiet space that surrounds them. It's actually just two singers, Chris Cameron and Shirley Lewis, but their harmonies feel vast. The organ brings to mind the warmth of worship spaces, while the drums and guitar stay soft, almost reverent. Michael's voice is just so gentle, just tender and reassuring, grounding the whole track with a sense of calm, but salvation. I could gush about Father Figure for hours and hours. It's a true masterpiece by the late George Michael. It was the third single drop from the epic Faith album, shooting to the top 5 of the sales chart all over the world. Huge #1 smash on the Billboard Hot 100. Faith was one of the best pop albums of the 80s, for sure. So onward with the top 10 songs of 1988 on our countdown. It's the title track from another phenomenal album. At the number 3 spot, I've got Hysteria by Def Leppard. With Mutt Lange at the helm as producer, Def Leppard packed Hysteria with a wall of guitars, making it nearly impossible to recreate live. Actually, in an interview, Def Leppard's Joe Elliott explained that the song actually has 11 guitar parts. The band then combined those 11 parts into 2 main layers, focusing on the ones that stand out to the listener and, leaving out the subtler ones that aren't as crucial to the live experience. Hysteria represents the vocal versatility of Joe Elliott as well as any track. There's a sensitivity to his tone that surprised a lot of his fans, including me, when I first heard it. Starting with that opening line, out of touch, out of reach, there's a sense of perplexion and longing in his delivery that sets up the very powerful atmospheric ballad that will follow. It's like Def Leppard doing Pink Floyd. Now, bassist Rick Savage came up with a guitar riff for the song, and it all came together when he played it for guitarist Phil Collen. Phil recalled that the band was in Dublin and Rick started playing this tune, and then instantly Phil started singing Out of Touch, Out of Reach. That was the first thing that popped into his head, and the line just stuck with him. And then Rick came in with another verse, really a fragment singing, I Gotta Know Tonight, and that sparked a whole other section of the song. Hysteria, the song, and the album, so important to me, a soundtrack of my life. I'm sure it is yours as well. I had a chance to speak with Joe Elliott about it, and he shared some insight about what he and the band wanted Hysteria to be as an album and as a track.
It's like God's plan or something. There's this thing where it's like, keep going, you'll get there. And we did. We were just like Monty Python. We wouldn't give up. We were like the knight that had all his arms and legs cut off, like, I'll bite you to death. we were just determined to get it done, and we wanted it to be different. And we were only 22, 23 years old, right? We didn't know what we were doing. What we tried to create was the ultimate rock record with to be down with everything in this. What does that thing do? Let's use it. We tried to make a Sgt. Pepper for our generation. That was the blueprint. Yeah. And that's why it took so long. We went down so many dead ends and they didn't work, that we came back up. The actual thing you hear didn't take that long. There was about 18 months of complete bollocks, just trying to get there, you know, because they probably had it all mapped out. We were flapping in the wind. We didn't know what to do. It just took time, and then it all fell into place.
Now, it wasn't as big as GNR's Appetite for Destruction, which has sold over 30 million copies, but Def Leppard's Hysteria was still one of the biggest albums of the rock era, selling over 21 million units. The awesome title track was one of 7 hit singles from The Giant. Hysteria actually climbed to number 26 in the UK, number 13 in Canada, and number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100. It was actually the first big hit off of Hysteria. Remember, there was so much that went into this album. They would have had to sell 5 million copies just to break even, and women didn't really do well right off the bat, and a lot of people thought that this album would tank. Hysteria was really, Animal came out, but that wasn't a top 10 hit. Hysteria was the first real hit that drove the album up. Coming into the last two, the number 2 and number 1 spots, man, this was very difficult. So in number 2, my bridesmaid position, we've got another title track from a very important album at this time. And number 2 is one of those haunting songs of the 80s, and really a song that perfectly captures the risks and the fear of relationships. I got Tunnel of Love by Bruce Springsteen. It's hard to put this at number 2 because personally, it's one of my favorite songs ever, and the song that even people that can't stand Springsteen really dig. Its lyrics and its musical arrangement are absolutely mesmerizing. Palace Amusements, an arcade and amusement park in Asbury Park, New Jersey, served as the inspiration for both the title and the theme of the song. It's also where the music video was filmed. The park actually closed its doors in 1988 after a century of operation. Now, for Tunnel of Love, Bruce Springsteen wanted to capture the true essence of a carnival, bringing real, authentic sounds to this track. To make this happen, his engineer Toby Scott took a trip to another amusement park that was in nearby Point Pleasant, New Jersey. There he recorded the exhilarating screams and laughter of people riding the roller coaster. Those genuine, spontaneous sounds were then woven into this song, and they really added a layer of atmosphere that made this track feel even more immersive. It was the title track from a mature album about relationships. It was kind of a strange and really risky follow-up to the massive blockbuster that was Born in the USA. But the boss cleverly uses a funhouse ride as a metaphor for marriage in the first verse, and the ride gets deeper and deeper from there. He followed up this huge rock album with a song about relationships, almost like a country western album in a way. At least the themes are very country, even some country in the album. They've been covered by a lot of the country stars. But man, this one hits me deeply. And when I was going through my own divorce, this was a lifeline. Tunnel of Love has an emotional effect on me whenever I hear it. Bruce sings his third verse after that breathtaking bridge, and I love his lyrics here. Well, it ought to be easy, it ought to be simple enough. Man meets a woman and they fall in love. His house is haunted and the ride gets rough. You got to learn to live with what you can't rise above if you want to ride on down in through this tunnel of love. Down in through this tunnel of love. It's really like a prayer. Anybody that's been through a relationship or married knows that there are compromises for sure, and there are things that you will not rise above, no matter how hard you try. This guy was going through his divorce across rock radio. I love it. Bruce composed Tunnel of Love during a very tumultuous time in his life. He and his first wife, Julianne Phillips, were on the verge of divorcing, and he had an undeniable burning to be with his eventual soulmate, Patti Scalfi. That realism helped make Tunnel of Love an incredibly captivating track, so haunting, so surreal. Now, it struggled in the UK. It only hit number 45 and only went to number 48 in New Zealand. But it was number 1 on the mainstream rock chart and it was a number 9 finisher on the Billboard Hot 100 here in the U.S. Again, even if you're a hater of the Boss, put this song on. Just open your mind to it. Put it in headphones. Listen to the whole thing. I guarantee you'll be a fan. This truly is one of the greatest songs of the 80s. Well, here we are. It's time to reveal the song that I chose as the best, the number 1 song of an amazing year in music. Coming in at number 1 on our countdown of the top 10 songs of 1988 is a song that might be the catchiest song of all time. It's up there. It's Joy personified, and its musical structure is insane. It doesn't really follow the rules, right? I got Just Like Heaven by The Cure.
Just like heaven.
Just Like Heaven is a timeless classic written and arranged by the hopeless romantic known as Robert Smith, the leader of The Cure. Yeah, I love that Robert is adamant that The Cure is not a goth band, and I agree with him. Case in point is Just Like Heaven. Robert has stated on many occasions that he considers Just Like Heaven to be the best Cure song and their best pop song. When Robert and his bandmates listened to the finished recording of Just Like Heaven, he turned to the guys and said, "I will never write anything this good again." And who could? It's a perfect song. Just Like Heaven, it's Robert's love letter to his wife Mary, whom he met when they were just 14. Poetically, after a long courtship, the two married a year after Just Like Heaven was released as a single from The Cure's 7th studio album, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. The Cure, really truly one of my favorite all-time groups, and this song is a go-to when I need to clear my head or get rid of any negativity or just reflect on how fortunate I am to be with my own soulmate. Just as Robert sings, it's just like a dream. I'm sure many of you feel the same way. And honestly, I don't think I've ever met a person that doesn't love this song. How can you not? It's just joyous. It is, like I said, joy personified. Now, Shivers was the working title for Just Like Heaven. A lot of people don't know that. Robert shared that the opening line of the song, "Show me, show me, show me how you do that trick," that's a nod to his childhood memories of learning magic tricks. Can you imagine a young Robert Smith pulling a rabbit out of his hat?
Show me, show me, show me how you do that trick.
But he also mentioned on another level, it's about a seduction trick from much later in his life. Robert went further, saying that Just Like Heaven is about kissing and fainting to the floor, and that experiencing one night like that is worth 1,000 hours of drudgery. If you can believe it, this happy song was inspired by one of the world's most notorious suicide spots. Robert Smith was spending the night there, not to take his own life, of course, but actually in a near tragic twist of fate. He came dangerously close to dying when he almost fell. But in the end, it led to a perfect song. It's really ambiguous. You know, after you listen to it, not really sure what happened to the mysterious girl by the time it ends. I mean, it sounds like she dies in the song. This song should have been so much bigger than his peak chart position. His highest position was number 15 in Ireland. It was a modest hit in the UK at number 29. That's a head scratcher. It actually only reached number 40 on the Billboard Hot 100, barely making it eligible for a countdown. Regardless, we put it at number 1 today, where it belongs. So that wraps up our countdown of the top 10 songs of 1988. But as y'all know, I have to at least do a few honorable mentions. You weren't going to get through this one without this. Rickroll, baby. Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. Barely missed the top 10. It would have been number 11. Here's some other songs that barely missed.
Keep on dreaming of living in a perfect world. I'm yours, so fine, like paradise. Like nothing else.
Well, there you have it. For album of the year, I've got Green by REM. For band of the year, I'm giving it to Traveling Wilburys. And for artist of the year, oh, that one's tough. It's between Morrissey, Tracy Chapman, and George Michael. Even though Faith came out in 1987, the bulk of it happened in 88. I'm going to go with George Michael on this one.
Till the end of time.
What are your thoughts? What are your memories? What do you think is the best album, the best artist, the best songs in 1988? Let's have a great discussion. Talk about our memories. Make sure to subscribe below to be part of our community. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.